You've done all this work setting up the best job description you possibly can. You've got SOPs, you've got assignments, you've got clarity around the person that you hired, what they're going to do, how they're going to be successful. And now you got to onboard them and train them. What should you do? What are the things you get done in the first day, in the first week, in the first month that set your new hire up for success? And most of all, doesn't leave them scratching their head wondering what the heck they just got themselves into.
How do you keep them for longevity? You train them correctly.
We think about what it is that we want this person to do and how they'll be successful. And then we reverse engineer all the things that they need to know, they need to do, the resources they need to have so that they can do it. You got to nail this. You got to really deliver on giving this new hire the experience that you promised, because otherwise they're going to check out real fast and they're going to walk out the door. Not immediately, but like mentally at first and then eventually physically. We are talking about onboarding and training your new hire. So you've done all this work setting up the best job description you possibly can. You've got SOPs, you've got assignments, you've got clarity around the person that you hired, what they're going to do, how they're going to be successful. And now you got to onboard them and train them. What should you do? What are the things you get done in the first day, in the first week, in the first month that set your new hire up for success, that makes them a superstar on your team? And most of all, doesn't leave them scratching their head wondering what the heck they just got themselves into, because everything you promised in the hiring process is actually true and their experience working for you is as good as you told them it was going to be. How do you do that? Well, we've got the answer for you. It is our onboarding and training guide, and you can get it by visiting our website and choosing the onboarding and training guide and reading it and putting it into action, because you don't want that person that you just spent all this time hiring to quit. So go download this thing and be the best boss ever.
All right. So you've put all this work into creating a job description. You've created your SOPs. You've started the interview process. You've found your perfect person.
Yep.
How do we keep that person? How do we keep that perfect person in place for longevity? How do you keep that person? How do you retain that person? How do you keep them for longevity? You train them correctly. All this month, we are going to be talking about our hiring and training guide. Where can you find that? The same place I told you last month where you can find the rest of those guides, www.fmdashboard.com. Look in our guides, give us your email, and you can download it. Get it today and start your training process right. Bing!
Yeah. We're having a very busy month, bringing on new people for our customers. And, what's crazy is we keep doing this over and over again, and we keep getting quicker. We keep getting better. We keep getting more focused. We tell people all the time, if you need a maintenance coordinator role filled, we can do it. That one that you've got that's been open for the last 6 months. We could have
now
somebody
going into 2026
in less
still
than
open
3 weeks. In less than 3 weeks, right? Somebody found, interviewed, hired, high-level trained, ready to sit in a seat and learn your processes between signing the contract and 3 weeks later, you have a new team member. And oh wait, they're the best team member that you've ever had. And when we hand them to you, we have put them through an internal orientation that sets them up to be more successful on your team than maybe some of your other people. Maybe, probably. We hear this all the time, that our customers are just blown away, especially when they hire their first one. They're blown away by how great these folks do in their first month. And it's because we're very intentional about this whole thing. You're probably getting this vibe. You're understanding this about us. We think about what it is that we want this person to do and how they'll be successful. And then we reverse engineer all the things that they need to know, they need to do, the resources they need to have, the mindset they need to have, the support system they need to have, so that they can do it. I see a lot of companies, a lot of people that I talk to go consult, and there's this giant disconnect between what the job was advertised as and what it actually is like. And you got to nail this, right? The advertisement part, it's probably true. It's probably what you think your department is like, but you got to really deliver on giving this new hire the experience that you promised. because otherwise they're going to check out real fast. They're going to start thinking, "Oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?" And they're going to walk out the door. Not
That's
immediately,
why
but like mentally at first, and then eventually physically.
That's why it's very important on the front end, right? You're hiring a facilities coordinator. You cannot just go on Chat GPT and be like, make me a job description for a facilities coordinator. Because a facilities coordinator for, let's just say, gas stations is not the same facilities coordinator that you need for restaurants. You have to think about what you are doing. You have to have a clear idea of what I like to ask myself, because obviously every customer we set somebody else or set them up for is different, right? Some are gas stations, some are maybe retirement communities, some may be restaurants, right? So you got to really sit and look at, what does a successful facilities coordinator do for me? Once you can sit down and you can write that down and you could say, a successful coordinator looks like this, you are literally going to take that, and that is what you are going to train them to do. It should reflect in the job description, it should reflect in the training, and it should reflect in the job. Make sure you take your time, because now we're at the hiring stage. So we've already picked the person out. We're bringing them on board. Now our job as the manager, or maybe even as the trainer, whoever's doing this, our job is now to set them up for success.
Yep. Step one in orientation is to have the culture that you want in place already. Because the first thing you want to do in orientation is not teach them how to do their job, but how to teach them how to fit in your company. So Justin, you do a great job about this. And your job is tricky because you've got to get people who fit in not only in FM Dashboard's culture, but also in our customers' culture. So walk me through what you do on day one, the first time you talk to somebody after they've signed their employment agreement and they're ready to go. What does the first conversation look like after that? What do you do?
First thing we do is once they sign their agreement, we'll set up our orientation day, which is next day. Before we hand them off to our customer, we want to set the biggest thing we want to talk about with orientation is it's not just getting them to understand the culture of the company. It is setting the standard from day one. And I'm not saying you got to be drill sergeant on day one, but you need to make sure whatever expectation levels you have for your folks is set on that orientation day. So for me, I'm very big on check in and out, checking in. Communication's big, right? We're all working remote. When I hire Johnny, I can't go to Johnny's desk and knock on his door and be like, Johnny, how you doing? I can't do that because we're working remote. So biggest standard I set across the board is communication. That's the biggest thing. But you brought up, Scott, you said the hard part for me is making sure that not only do they fit in FM Dashboard culture, but they fit in our company or in our customers' culture. We've done this job before, Scott. You've done it. I've done it. We know what it takes to do this job. So we set the culture up front of a maintenance coordinator. We're not a call center. We're not hiring call center people. That's not what we're doing here. Like when we tell you we're hiring you a virtual maintenance coordinator, it's because the way we think, the way we operate, and the way we do things is that of a maintenance coordinator. And so we like to set that up front, especially during orientation. The other big thing you want to go over orientation is all of your internal stuff, employee expectation, backgrounds. How do we want to look virtually, and keeping the company standard from day one. You can really make or break somebody by not setting them up correctly during your orientation and not, stating what's the most important to your company on orientation. If you make sure you hit that orientation part right, it's going to be pretty much smooth sailing.
Yeah, and we're big proponents on bonus the basics. The first bit of orientation is here's the basics. Like a military culture in terms of like what it feels like, right? But you're ex-military, and in the military, the first thing you do when you join, at least from what I hear and what family members, friends, you have told me, is they just reset the basic behavior.
Yeah.
You get off that bus at basic training and you're in, it's called basic training, right?
Yep.
The basics. Here's how you stand. Here's how you clean a bed, clean your room. Here's how you make your bed. Here's how your clothes. Here's how you're going to walk. Here's how you're going to respond to things. We're not militant in any way.
Yeah.
Like we're not, it's not, but it is very serious. Like these are the standards, the minimum levels of expectation that we expect. And if you operate inside of these constraints, you're going to do a really, really good job. And there's room to grow and make mistakes and fix things or whatever, but we're just not going to tolerate the simplest things not being met, the basics not being met. And so here's how all of that works. Here's all the simplest things that are like They're not the job, but they set the foundation for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you can set that tone correctly. Having an onboarding checklist is huge.
Mhm.
It sets the tone from the beginning. Like it's the start of we have these expectations for you, right? On our
We've
checklist,
thought about it ahead of time. We
we've
even
thought
wrote it
about it as
down.
of it. Yep,
Nice
yep.
tiny little boxes.
Our pre-onboarding checklist consists of things like hardware and systems, right? We don't need them showing up on day one and being like, "Do you have the right computer?" No, right? We have minimum processing requirements, memory requirements, things that we say we'd like for you to have: Windows 10 or 11, Mac OS 11 or sooner, things that we know you need, right? We talk about connectivity, making sure you have the right download speed, software and tools you need, making sure that they're proficient in things, right? Power and environment. Do you have backup power? A lot of our folks are in the Philippines, but even if you have stateside folks, these are questions you should be asking your stateside people. What are you doing when you're working from home during a storm? Or is it just, we'll see Tommy tomorrow? Or is it, backup power's engaged and we have backup internet? Simple things like, do you have the right background? Are you in a quiet workspace? I know it might seem like, and again, we talked about, that's kind of like how the military does it, right? You think of things like repeating the basics and getting them to understand how important the basics are will set the standard for your person throughout the entire career. And we talk about repeat, repeat, repeat. Repeat it before you hire, repeat it during the hire, repeat it at orientation, continue to repeat it throughout their career.
Previous to this, like prior to like even them showing up, is like that going back to that checklist, right? The checklist is like everything we want to cover, but it's also everything that we want to have set up for the person when they walk in day one. So a checklist to me communicates, hey, we're ready for you.
They're going to feel
Thought about
successful.
this. Yeah, we thought about this. We have a plan. Your
Yeah.
accounts are set up.
Yep.
We've given it to you ahead of time. We've given you
Yep.
information ahead of time to see
Yep.
like what do you want to go through on your own. It's not day one and we're like winging it. You're showing
Yeah.
up and
How would you feel if you showed up on day one and they were like, all right, all right, all right. Okay, so the first app I need you to download requires Windows 11. And you're like, oh my God, I have Windows 10. Wouldn't you
yeah.
feel like, and I know that seems like something silly, but these are the reasons why we do it. Because if you come to work and you have a checklist and you're like, I checked this box, you're going to come in there you're going to come in there being like, I'm already ready before I need to be ready. You're going to feel pre-ready. I always use the example of, if you meet somebody for the first time and they have a bad attitude, what's your initial thought?
That guy's a jerk.
Your initial thought is exactly that. That guy is a jerk. And you're thinking about that guy's a jerk now forever, right? So the way no matter what you do, you're always thinking that way, right? So the way you set somebody up on day one is the way they're going to think about everything. Are you coming in and it feels like they're just like, I got to do this. I got to do this. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. If it seems messy, it's going to seem messy to that new hire forever. If you come in before everything seems organized into a T, the interview process has a certain way of going. They get an email. There's a time. They accept it. If you can't, it's done this way. We interview. Don't worry. There's a second interview. Want you to meet the team. Here's the invite. It's at this time. Everything is calculated and meticulous. Here's the job description. Here's the SOP. Here's your KPIs. Here's what you need. Here's your expectation. You're set. It's like boom, boom, boom. I promise you, if you continue to set everything up like that, you are going to set yourself up to have a successful and long-term employee because they're going to feel heard. They're going to feel prepared. They're going to feel ready. Everybody wants to feel like they're acing it. They want to feel like they're a rock star. Help them. Help them. You are the one that can do that. Help your people on day one, starting with orientation.
A giant hole in a lot of training processes is a lack of documented information. Some of the guides that we have up on our website right now are all about how leaders can get information out of their heads and onto some type of format that allows it to be easily referenced and accessed by your team, right? And we talk about in our hiring process, we're hiring specific people for specific roles to do specific tasks. Those things need to be documented before somebody shows up. So that lack of documentation, it does a couple things. People want to do a good job. They want to show up. They want to excel. They want to exceed expectations. They want to be told that they're doing a good job. And in our cases, when you deal with high performing individuals, people who have this mindset, who really, really care, all of us, I'm like this, Justin, I know you're like this. We have this underlying fear of looking stupid because of our desire to perform well. Really great people. They're going to go and like do a lot of their own research. And that's awesome. I love when people do that. But the hole in that is they might grab the wrong information. They might grab information
Mhm.
that we don't want them to, like, it's incorrect. It's not our
Yeah.
mindset. It's not how we
Or
operate.
unnecessary. Yeah.
Yeah, unnecessary. The cool thing is as you prepare for the person who's going to be coming in and you have this stuff
Mhm.
documented, and you provide it to them, we're not just sitting somebody down next to another person and say, hey, watch this. Hey, take notes. Hey,
Good
ask
luck. Yeah.
questions. And then after you've seen it a few times, now you try.
Yeah.
And there's room for shadowing, right? But it works
Yeah.
way better when that person can connect what they're looking at and what they're seeing while they're shadowing to information that they've already seen before.
Mhm.
Now,
Yep.
we love to package this information into a specific tool. It is just the tool that we decide to use. It's called
Mhm.
Google Notebook LM. It's part of the G Suite, but there's other tools out there. You don't have to use this one. There's other knowledge management tools. But we take very specific information tailored to that person's job, and we create a notebook in Notebook LM. And what it allows for us to do is in one place, you put this information, the application consolidates all that information, it goes through it,
Yep.
learns it
Yep.
specific to that data that's in there. That's it. So this person, their start and stop times, their schedules, their who they can reach out to, what their job is, their SOPs,
Yeah.
how
Drive
they
off
request
procedures,
vacation
etc. Yep.
time. It's all there. They can
Everything.
go back to this at any time for each person. How to perform certain tasks, where to the URLs for logging into certain things, not passwords, never anything like that. But
Yeah.
where is all this information? Step by step instructions on how to do their job, order of operations for what they do first, second, third, fourth, fifth a day, what's the highest priority, what's the lowest priority. All this
Mhm.
information's in one place. It packages up, you can ask questions about it, but even better than that, it can create an audio overview in the form of a podcast. It sounds like two people talking, a video overview in the form of
Interactive
a video
podcast, nonetheless.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, interactive. You can stop and ask it questions and they'll
Questions. Yep.
answer. Yeah,
Study guides.
flashcards and quizzes. And
Mhm.
so we give high performing individuals the ability to a tool that can teach them as if they're interacting with people on their own time. They can communicate, they can answer questions, like have a conversation back and forth. They can quiz them and they can give them like practice with flashcards.
Yep.
By having this tool, we can have people go through, and it's not just the functions of their job, but also all the other stuff. And so they can remember it. And you can listen to this thing for 10 minutes every single morning and do some flashcards and do a quiz every day in your first few weeks. And then sit down next to somebody and see what it
Yeah.
is that you're doing in real. And
Yep.
you're connecting this thing you're learning in concept with it in reality. And it just sandwiches that information in between
Yep.
two really solid functions. And you get to perform better. You get to
Yep.
know it better.
It also becomes a first line of defense. It becomes a first line of defense, so you're not answering every single question every
Yeah.
single time.
One framework I use for delegating is, what is it that I'm delegating? So there's the level of delegating an area of responsibility, right? So when you delegate an area of responsibility, you're delegating this to a very high level leader in your organization. So for example, me as a CEO of this company, I delegate the responsibility of everything operating smoothly to you, Justin. We have expectations on how our company works and operates and what our goals are, but I give you the responsibility. And so it's not encompassed in responsibility is the results and the tasks, right? It kind of goes down
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
chain, right? But when you delegate responsibility, you give very little direction on how things specifically need to get done, right? And
Yeah,
in some cases, like
it's
in your
more of
case,
how
I don't
what do I
even
want the end
really
product
give
to be.
you the hard goal. We work together to determine those goals because it's your responsibility, right? Down from there, though, you delegate results, and so this is more like a mid-level manager, right? You're going to delegate. Hey, these are the things that need to get done. And that results person is usually going to be managing results and the tasks to achieve
Mhm.
those results. Now, the person you delegate results to typically is going to be delegating. They're going to be performing tasks on their own, but they're also going to be delegating tasks. Now, in the context of this conversation, we're talking about training people who are performing tasks, right? We're not talking about results. It's the person that they work for's responsibility to make sure that the results are correct. They're
Mhm.
delegating tasks to people, and they're responsible for making sure the tasks are performed correctly and that they're actually being performed
Yeah.
in the quantity that they need to be performed, right? When you hand something to somebody and when you're thinking about training somebody on how you want them to do something or how to perform their job well, you need to have a good understanding of what it is that you're delegating. Now, again, we're talking about maintenance coordinators. We are delegating tasks to people. And so you have to be very specific about what tasks they need to perform, when they need to perform them, in what order they need to perform them, how they need to perform them,
What
and
tools do they need?
what tools they're going to use, all of that. And don't get it confused. Don't hold people that you've delegated a task to accountable for the results of that task. As long as they're performing the task correctly, it's your responsibility to make sure that they're being given the right tasks, not their responsibility. Otherwise, you'd be delegating results or you'd be delegating responsibility. And so you need to understand what it is that you're delegating.
Absolutely.
You have this new processes you're creating for you're bringing in your hiring person, right? You're basically, what are you delegating in that case? Are you delegating responsibility or are you delegating tasks?
I'm definitely delegating tasks.
Okay. So what does that look like?
You need to probably do as a maintenance manager. So what tasks are you doing during your day that are tasks that need to get done to get the result, but don't necessarily, I mean, they do determine the result, but don't necessarily determine the result. Like, for instance, one of the biggest things that I tasked off was setting up interviews, right? That's a big task of getting the email, setting up the email, open up the account, all of that, right? The result that I want is I want to interview somebody, but the task is set up the interview. My biggest hesitation was, what am I going to have this person? What does that look like? So you definitely want to take your time on the front end and make sure you know what that looks like for you. And then obviously create a job description that helps fulfill that role. Make sure you line up all the tools for your folks, figure out what you need done, and just be very specific. As people grow and they work with a company and they grow into management roles, they'll end up taking over. When you're talking about hiring somebody that's there to assist you or help you in those tasks, if you're not specific on the front end, you're not going to knock it out. A lot of folks, when they're hiring for these roles, they're just like, I just need help. I just need help. With what specifically? Preparation for that. What is that? Proper planning prevents poor performance. Preparing correctly is going to help with retention for sure. What we do at FM Dashboard, it doesn't necessarily need to be what you do, but a brush overview without getting into too specific tasks that we go over with folks. Some of the orientation stuff that we do, attendance and punctuality. That's a big thing you definitely want to go over, right? If your company doesn't have one, maybe you're small, or maybe you're creating this department yourself, you definitely need to have an employee code of conduct. What is your expectation? Set that code of conduct on the front end, right? And I always go through the line when I'm talking to people. Oh, these are all the things that, we got to go over, because it's true. You do. If you don't set that expectation level on the front end, you're setting yourself up for disaster, right? One of the other things we like to go over too is,
So
how are these folks? Go ahead.
That employee code of conduct, you're not just handing it to them and saying, hey, read this while you go.
Oh, no. Well, I am on a call with them. They are looking at it. I am making sure they're in the document looking at it with me, and I am reading it verbatim. Do you really want to later on have somebody come back and say, I remember you talking about employee code of conduct, but I never did read it, right? And I always tell people, hey, these are the silly things that we have to go over, but we're going to go over them and you're going to hear it and just, here it goes, right? And I read it to them. I mean, literally, I'll go in there and I'll be like, at FM Dashboard, we value professionalism, integrity, and respect in all aspects of our work. As a remote phone-based employee, you play a crucial role. I mean, what's funny is I literally almost memorize it because I've said it so many times. Dude. And it's almost like I'm a character of myself, right? Always maintain professional work demeanor when interacting with customers and colleagues, right? It's like ingrained in my brain, right? And it needs to be for them, right? And then
why are you doing this? Why?
Set them, because if you set your employees up on the front end for success and give them everything they need, you are going to have a long-term employee. Everybody wants to know what to expect. I may read a code of conduct and they may get into this and be like, oh my God, what am I getting into? Tell me that on the front end, right? I should have weeded it out with if you use all of our guides for hiring and everything else, you should have probably weeded this person out already. But let's say you didn't for some reason, you can do it now on the front end, right? By making sure they understand it. It is.
It's our constitution. It literally lays out the culture of our organization, and it may be boring, it may be dry, but there should be no questions.
Right.
What's
exactly.
Expected, what's accepted and what is not.
In my employee code of conduct, it does get redundant, and I set it up that way on purpose. So I have the employee code of
Because
conduct. One of the
repetition
things
is
is,
persuasive.
which we've said that if you've been hanging along or hanging out with us for any length of time, we've been saying that, right? So
That's
employee
right.
code of conduct, section 3 is confidentiality. What's after the employee code of conduct? Sharing private information and customer information. Number 1, confidentiality. We go over the important things over again, and we talk about why is it important. I know we're fixing toilets and air conditioning units, but we're not going to share all that information with anybody, whether it's between departments. Preventative maintenance isn't talking to dispatch unless it needs to be, right? We talk about all those things that are important to us. I mean, even down to, how do you request for time off? How are you going to request for time off? What are my expectations, right? If you're asking for more than 1 day, I want 3 weeks. If you're asking for a day or two, give me a couple weeks, right? Set the standard. And then obviously onboarding, very big on quizzes. Not only do we have notebook LM stuff for them to go over, let's say they're learning a CMMS software like Service Channel or something like that. I'll have stuff set up for that. I've got some folks who are learning drafting and plans, so they have to learn Bluebeam. What do? I go in, I get all the Bluebeam documents, I create a study guide, I create a test, and I create an answer key, right? These are all things you, again, do ahead of time, but these are all things you need to be going over in orientation. Orientation should be a day. It should be 1 day, at least 1 day of going over all of the important stuff in the company, right? And then the rest of the day is spent training. Okay. I always do too. Why do I always do too? Because I know I can go over everything in 1 day. If they do a great job, it should only take 1 day, right? If they need extra encouragement, or maybe they need extra studying, or maybe there's a few things they don't understand and we need to go over things, that's fine. Give them an extra day. Make sure you leave room. It's better to start them early than say they need an extra day and we have to push a start date. Make sure you leave some time, because you want to make sure, again, what are we trying to do? Set them up for success. The only way I can set them up for success is them feeling confident when they actually step into day 1 of their job. And that means they understand the company, they know what the company expectations are, they know what my expectations are, their expectations are, they have their KPIs, and they feel like they have been versed and tested in what they're going to be doing.
You know, it's really interesting to me watching this, like when I look at it. So we've hired in the last, I don't know, 6 months, over 20 people. We've turned a couple people over, right? Both people that we've turned over in the first week. And the reason, so I almost don't count it as turnover, because we also had a backup and we're ready to go, and we still made up our promise of having somebody in place by inside of 3 weeks. But the reason that, like, I think that that's so important is it goes to show the strength of your onboarding process, right? So we should have weeded them out in the interview process. It didn't happen. They fooled us.
Yeah, didn't happen.
Or they fooled themselves, maybe. But then they get down to it and they see, like, here, this is what it actually is going to be like. And it's consistent with what we said, but they get an inkling that, hey, maybe I have overstated my desire to perform these tests.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe I was kind of hoping that there wouldn't be as much
accountability
attention to detail as accountability as it seems.
I like how you
is.
said attention to detail for accountability, because they are like one and the same.
Correct. And so those folks really quickly went like, hey, you know what? Not for me. And we say, great, thank you.
And it's not a problem. It's not. It's not for everybody. But wouldn't you rather know on orientation day than after you invested 3 weeks, you spent all this time trying to get them to understand the culture, and then they're like, it's not for me. If you lay it all out there between your interview process and your orientation, you're going to set yourself up for. And again, I'll tell you, like I've said 100 times, this isn't some foolproof plan that's going to make all of your problems disappear, but you're heading in the correct direction. Just like we said in our first guide, our guide for winter preparation is setting you up to keep the mindset of, I need to prepare year after year. The way you set up your orientation is preparing yourself and preparing your employees for, this is how we're going to do things. Are you guys catching on? Preparation, preparing, documenting, preparation, documenting, preparing. I think the dots are going to start connecting. In there.
All right. So day 1's orientation, weeks 1 through 4. I mean, they're still training. There's still ongoing training, but like how often are you checking in with people? Day 1, you're with them the whole day. Day 2, what does it look like?
I mean, day 2, if they pass what they're supposed to pass, then I'm prepared to, in your case, right? In your case, you're probably not handing somebody off to somebody, right? In your case, you've prepared and now they're ready to hit the ground running. Give them your tasks and let them hit the ground running. In the case of how we do it, right? At this point, I'd get with the customer and I would show them, this is what they scored on the multiple choice test. This is what they scored on the written test. They've met all the requirements for internet speeds and everything. Obviously, they're ready to go. They're ready to start on this day, right? If they're ready to start a day early, great. Or, and I can go to them and say, hey, they passed everything. They're ready to start a day early. If not, they're starting on the day we already agreed on.
And we hand off,
which
we
is
don't
2 days of,
leave them alone, right? So
no. I mean,
how do you handle your check-in?
it's constant check-ins. We have some customers who are like, hey, check in with me once a month. We have some customers who are like, hey, check in with me every 2 weeks. And then I have some folks I speak with every single week. We look at numbers. We look at call volume. We look at completed work orders. We look at tickets.
But you're not
because we're
and let me back up. We're not talking about
Excuse me.
check-ins with our customers. We're talking about check-ins with our people.
Oh,
How
I check
often
in
are
with
you
our people
talking to our
every single day. If you're not talking to your folks every single day, you're wrong.
Like,
You
for
should
how
be
long?
checking in with your. We check in morning, afternoon, lunch. It could be, first of all,
Oh, wait,
everybody
you don't
checks in with me
you
every
don't just do
morning.
that for like a week and then stop?
No, not at all. This is for the entirety of the time they work with me, forever,
Every day you check in with
every
every
day,
single person, every single day,
every single day,
for the
every
entirety
single
that they
day,
work with us. Yeah.
for the entirety time they work with us.
Why?
If I can't complete that task, there will be somebody in which they've already known and been speaking to that does complete that task.
Why is that important, though?
Why would you not say hello to somebody in the office? That's silly. That's crazy talk.
Yeah,
You
but they're getting
have
their
to.
work done.
How are they going to, do you want to, we've said this in the past, complacency kills. You know what else kills?
Yeah.
Silence. Silence is a killer. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but I remember, if my dad wasn't talking to me that day, I was like, oh my
I think silence
God.
breeds cynicism.
It does. Or criticism too. They feel like, well, am I not doing a good enough job? Does he not? I know on day one in orientation, he said family over everything, but is it really family over everything? Are we really family over everything? It's not even something I think about. I know it. I don't check in with people. Hey, how you doing? How's your day going? What's going on? Check in, right? And think of it as it's just not, it's just something we do. They check in with me too. Hey, going to lunch. Hey, I'm here, right? Obviously we require check-ins, first thing in the morning because we want to make sure everybody's here on time, right? Because one of our big things that we go over in orientation is attendance, right? We bonus the basics. You show up on time, I'm gonna hook you up, which I think you should do for your folks. It's also, how's the weather, right? Everybody, once a week minimum, we have an all company meeting. I keep track of who attends. We have an attendance list. We try to keep track. I try to make sure we catch everybody. The other thing we do is one-on-ones. I think one-on-ones are important. You should at least be doing one-on-ones with your folks. If you're not doing them every quarter, you're doing them every 6 months. Check in, feedback. How are we doing? How are you doing? How's your family doing? What's your work-life balance? How's people doing at home? How's your daughter? How's your kids? If you're going to hire somebody and they're going to join your team and you're not going to be the person that makes sure that person feels like part of that team, you better assign that to somebody. Who's going to come to work and do more than what we need them to do or go above and beyond if they do not feel like they are part of some kind of team or family? You have to figure that out. As a manager, I check in with a lot of people. As we grow bigger and bigger, there will be somebody in charge of making sure somebody's checked in with somebody. I'm still always going to be checking in with somebody or people that are at some sort of level. You can't just say you care. You got to actually care. That's something I can't teach you. That's something as a leader, you're going to have to learn on your own to really genuinely care. You can't say you care. You have to actually care. As a COO, that's something I try to look into my leaders. Do they actually care? The people that I work for, right? I know you said earlier, you delegate stuff to me. Well, you know why I do it? And you don't have to check in with me because I know you care, which makes me care, which makes we all have one goal in mind and one thing we care about that we're trying to head towards. And as a leader, you got to make sure that's down to the lowest level person. The care goes down to the lowest level person and it doesn't stop. Checking in. Always. That'll never stop. Am I going to be able to check in with everybody forever? No, but I will always be checking in with somebody. And those people are going to be checking with those people. And I'm going to be, hey, how's everybody doing? Did you check in with your people? Cool. I'm checking in with my people.
For our customers that have the most success with getting somebody up to speed and operating on their own the fastest, what are the commonalities you see? Like, what do they do What do they do really well? We hand somebody who's like really high level trained, incredible experience. I know we get feedback all the time. These folks are so easy to train, and that's true. But still, someone on their team has to train our people on how to do their job the way they want it done. And we've seen it done really, really well. And then we've also seen it done kind of at an average level. What's the difference?
I mean, the difference is clearly the people who are successful are the people that prepare the best, the people that have a clear definition of what they want done, the people that document the best. And then the most success I've seen are the people that have all those things, but also share it as many ways as they can through an LM, through an email, through something. They're constantly sharing information. And then that shared involvement, it doesn't end at any point. It's continued training, continued changes, continued updates. Those who have the most success are those who don't stop and continue to clean up their processes and change things. The most successful are the ones who are like, it's never good enough. We can always do better. We can always do better. And you'll see that through preparation and documentation for sure.